Hey everyone, I'm Clue. So, we're on to the final batch of spoilers. The Dusk Till Dawn, the light cards. Ha! Still have no idea what's going on with this, right? So, new heroes, you want to play with them. Again, they were given out as promo cards, right? But they're just regular, they're short printed, and even Luminaris, right, is just regular printing. I don't think I touched on that with Vizet's either, right? Vizet, the flail is just regular, no cold foil variant of the weapon. I guess they don't want to compete with the promos that they've printed to give away, but it's just curious to me because again, the whole point of this set is to introduce Vizet and Prism. That's the big selling point, if you will, of the set, where the majority of cards are really centered around these two. I mean, a third of the set is just for Vizet, technically, in Prism, because obviously normal Prism and Chain are living legends, so banned from competitive play in all the current formats. So them being short printed is interesting. The normal Vizet is not short printed, which is also interesting, right? Because both Prisms are. So I don't know if there's errors or typos or things missing from this list. I'm still hoping, right, that there's still some secrets once we get to full box openings, which should be end of this week, right, when this comes out. Awesome. How many boxes have you got, right? Do you plan to do a lot of openings? Despite it being a supplemental set, I do plan on doing a lot of openings. I think I've got some interesting things planned to utilize the boxes. Anyway, on to the light cards. Okay, so we've got the new variation of Prism. Again, heavily nuded in comparison to the original Prism, really revolving around these figments, which I've sort of touched on before. I don't like that they're baked into Prism's ability, right? It means that these cards are solely for Prism, Awakener of Soul, or Advent of the Thrones, rather than Light Illusionist as a class. And to me, that's sort of bad design, right? To have everything centered around the one hero, or the one mechanic, where if there is any Light Illusionist, any other Light Illusionist, which is kind of weird, right? In all of Soul, what, Prism is the only Light Illusionist? Lore-wise, that seems a bit odd to me. And unlike the Marvel Dragons, these cards aren't open for other interpretations, right? It's just Soul because she's the protector of Soul. So yeah, them being baked into her ability, doesn't feel too great to me, to be honest. But we'll see how things go, right? As soon as she hits Living Legend, all these going to tank because they'll be like the Marvel Dragons. There's no big collectible value, right? Sorry to say. Again, the market is so heavily skewed towards playability. Despite how gorgeous these cards are, the only things that are really going to hold substantial value from this set are going to be the extended arts, in my personal opinion, as well as obviously the CLS art cards, even the Light of Soul. I feel, and many that I've seen feel, that it's going to go the same way as the Blood of Jakar. It's too niche. It's just not a Fable card, right? Altogether, the Fable cards have really been some hit and misses in terms of the first three, or really the first two, because they, again, can see play in all the decks, as well as Dynasty's Command & Conquer variants, right? They are substantially priced because they have both the rare aspect and the playable aspect. These cards that have, some playability, but within highly restricted segments of the play community, just don't make up for their rarity when it comes to pricing. So I don't think the Fable's going to be worth too much, which is kind of sad, considering it's, a Fable, but oh well. Right, the figments. I mean, I'm sure everyone's seen them, right? Can I go to... I think I have to open them all to actually look at the Marvel variant, right? I have to click. There we go. So they look gorgeous. All of them, all together. I do find the Figment of Rebirth and the Figment of War a little bit jarring, just because the art style is quite different to all the other figments. But they still look nice, right? Still do their job. And then the flip side, I think the Archangel of Rebirth is my favorite. I like the palettes, I like the design, I like the realism. What's the Figment of Wars? Oh, that's Bologna. But yeah, then we have these. The Herald cards, right? More just filler to me. It's called their extended art, sure, but they're just regular versions, right? There's nothing to them other than being extended art regular versions. They're rare, so, there's going to be a decent chunk of them. And it just seems like more waste. Like, Dusk Till Dawn feels, again, on the low-end side, to be a rush set where they've just tacked things on to fill up the slots, rather than, come up with more cards. In all honesty, that's the feeling I get from it. Again, I keep saying this, the high end of Dusk Till Dawn looks and feels great. The middle to the low end just seems like filler. Right, to have these take away from Monarch, right, is a bad choice in my opinion. Right, Dusk Till Dawn is meant to synergize with Monarch. It's meant to incentivize people to open both boxes or utilize both boxes, and it just doesn't do that. Even if it was draftable, you could then mix the drafting, right? Because again, you're focusing on these 4 heroes, and with the amount of generics, amount of other cards for other heroes, I'm pretty sure you could easily get away with drafting it with Monarch if it were 15 card packs, if the heroes were tokens, if their weapons were tokens. But instead, we get this weird mishmash. And Extended Art Heralds, I mean, you could have at least made them rainbow foil, so there was a little bit of a chase, but just for the sake of reprinting, so that there's something a little bit new compared to Monarch. It seems redundant to me. I mean, I guess, what would you rather play? Would you rather play a full set of rainbow foil, or would you rather play a full set of Extended Art? Okay, and then on to the newish cards. So we have Angelic, Descent, target attack action with Herald in the name, gains go again. So altogether, there is a lot of support for Heralds, and that seems like the big play for the new Prism, is really tying into Heralds rather than just auras, because that was the old Prism's whole gimmick, is just create auras and then swing with your auras. And yeah, heavily nuded in terms of abilities again. I think Illusionist is by far the most complex character when it comes to Flesh and Blood, so I don't think my understanding is that great. And again, like, there's not much to go over because the rare slot is entirely eaten up by all the Heralds. Okay, Celestial Reprimand, right? Target card defending an attack with Herald in its name, gains -3, so again, utilize your Heralds. The Archangels are not Heralds, right? So they don't actually get all of the support. Unlike the weapon, which says Herald or Archangel, target Angel attack, yeah, or Herald. So I think they could have just gone away with using that in all of the cards, right? To actually give support for the Archangels. And then Celestial Resolve. Target attack action card with Herald in its name, gains 5 defense. So just reactions, essentially, that aren't really reactions because they're instants. Right, so it's decent in terms of playability, right? They're strong deck techs. Boltyn. Again, do we need a common version of Boltyn? No, not really. Here's what it is, 2 card slots down, whatever. Beaming Blade. Beaming Blade seems good to me, right? So it really plays off of Boltyn's. It's 2 for 5 if you put a yellow card in your soul, which seems somewhat easy. Again, charge mechanic, all the soul mechanics, I haven't touched on. Right, the Blood Debt is easy enough to understand because it's just playing out of your banish zone. Soul is your arsenal, that's my understanding, right? But it's now dubbed Soul, or can you have a card in your soul and a card in your arsenal? Pretty sure it's the same slot, right? Okay, so then Legendary for Light Warrior. When this defends, you may charge your hero's soul, so you can automatically put a card in there, which then sets up for a lot of your other effects. First time you would be dealt damage each turn. If you've charged this turn, prevent 1 damage, seems great. And then Temper. So you can use it to block once, and then just, lean on it so you can reuse its effect every time. Mainly this one, the first time, you would be dealt damage each turn if you've charged. Right, because there should be plenty of ways to charge your hero soul on your opponent's turn, right? If you charge this turn, gain 1, no, banish a card from Boltyn's soul, target attack action, games go again. No. Banners, right, they're all just the different tokens. So whenever you charge these types of cards, you create X. In this case, it's Spellbane, Quicken, Courage. Again, we don't need the tokens remade into the set. It's more filler. Courage does seem like a good token, though. As an additional cost to play this, you may charge your hero soul, so you may put a different card into your hero soul. If it's a yellow, so again, this big gimmick of playing yellow cards in Prism, in Light. Well, it's not so much for Prism, but it is definitely for Boltyn. Is kind of weird, right? I've seen people do the math on it, how sort of inefficient it is to have to always rely on yellow in terms of blocking. So I don't know. Boltyn seems like there's good ideas here, but all around it's still fairly weak. Where we're up to Spirit of War. You may charge. If it was yellow charged, create more tokens. Is he just a complete token generator now? Right? Yellow, whenever you may put an attack action card from your graveyard. We are seeing also a lot more hints at more life gain and recycling cards, which is definitely the way to go in terms of how to advance the game state, right? Utilizing the inventory slots more, well, your side deck, and then also being able to recycle cards, you know, prolong the fatigue game, if you will, for Flesh and Blood, is definitely the right way to go instead of just power creeping cards. Okay, because then it also gives value to a lot of the stronger other cards, like older cards. So again, Legend Story Studios has done this wonderful job of balancing, making sure that the old cards are still relevant and all this, and trying to really fine-tune sets. It's wonderful to see, and I can definitely see the issues that come from that being, again, you know, prioritizing the design of, say, the Majestics, and then just filling up the generics, the commons and the rares with generic-ish cards. Not generic type cards, but, you know, pretty plain, lackluster cards. Prayer of Bologna. I was still hoping we'd see ways for the Angels to be played in Bolton, right? Especially since Bologna is lore-wise his Archangel. But no, again, it's kind of weird that they just say Light Angel ally. I guess Light Illusionist, you could fit it in there, surely? Maybe not, maybe that's why. They just didn't have enough room. Okay, more banners. Beaming Bravado, Charge Your Soul, and then if the yellow card... So, okay, if you're leaning so heavily on yellow, why make these other versions? Right? Why not just come up with stronger yellow cards or differently balanced yellow cards for Bolton to specifically make use of his effect? Especially when it comes to Light Warrior cards. If the whole gimmick for Light Warrior is to charge yellow cards, then come up with more yellow cards, more variations of yellow cards, rather than just giving the 3 and then the player rationalizing, well, I'm going to take the yellow because my whole gimmick is playing the yellow cards. Light the Way, as an additional cost, charge your soul. When this hits, if a yellow card was charged this way, this gets go again. Again, why would you run the other copies? Because then they can't play into one another. Target Light Warrior attack gets +2. If you've charged this turn, create a courage token. And then the next attack you charge this turn gets +2. Yeah. Again, I'm not big on Bolton. Prism's a bit more, but I definitely have more experience with the shadow side of things. And then we get the Radiant View, the Radiant set, right? So banish this card and... Oh, no, sorry. Banish this and a card from your hero's soul. Prevent the next 2 damage that would be dealt to your hero this turn. That seems awful, right? I feel like there's much better ways to accomplish this. The only benefit you get is the fact that it's instant. In terms of equipment, it has no block value, so this is the only way to really cash it in. It looks gorgeous, right? Having a full set of this in cold foil is definitely going to be a goal, but its ability does not seem that great. Again, more pack filler would have been useful in drafting, but Dusk Till Dawn is not a draftable set. United We Stand, we've gone over before. This new Unity tag, which I don't think I've seen Unity on any of the just light illusionist cards. Not there. There is a lot, right? Because again, how many cards is this? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 10, 11, 16, 17. Was that 23, 24, minus 1, 2, 3. There's 20 rare cards in this as just extended art reprints. Right, 20 out of 200 and something. So 10% of the set. You then throw in the heroes. Right, you can discount Prism and Visette from that because they're necessarily new. But you chuck in Chain Levia, that's 4, so it's 24. You know, there's definitely a good 10 to maybe 20% of the cards are really not necessary. Right, 1, 2, 3, 4 tokens. So that's now 28. The 3 armor sets definitely aren't needed. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how I feel about the makeup, again, of the low-end cards. You know, like, just the box fillers. Okay, where were we? Lumina Lance. Another Inline Strike Celestial Cataclysm? No, Celestial Cataclysm didn't have a very versatile effect, did it? As additional cost to place card banish up to 3 cards from your hero soul. Choose that many modes. Given the new premise on Prism, right, it's definitely a more Bolton-ish card. I mean, you can put the Heralds into your soul, but to get 3 Heralds? I mean, you do have a lot of the new Herald buffs. Seems a bit high of a cost. Target light attack gains +2, target light gains when this hits, draw a card, target light gets go again. So it's actually closer to Art of War, right? In terms of what you can use it for without the defensive side to it. Otherwise, it's 0, just banish 3. Again, set up for previous turns. I don't like the setup requirements for the light heroes. I don't like that mechanic. Again, like, it has its purpose and use. I'm just talking from a personal perspective. I don't really want to touch either of them, despite them having some of the best looking cards. I think out of this set, I'd be most inclined to try out the new Levia, especially something to do with the Hydra, since it seems a lot more applicable than my Knives Flick Benji 1 turn kill. Right, you can do a lot of damage if you have the right setup with Flick Knives and Benji, but the Levia Hydra seems a lot easier to utilize. Radiant Force Field. If your hero would be dealt damage, banish a card from Hero Soul to prevent 1 of that damage. When there are no cards in your Hero Soul, destroy this. So it's permanent as long as you have cards in your Hero Soul. So it's a permanent -1 whenever you want. You just have to cash in one of your cards. That seems quite strong. Radiant Force Field. Later Rest. When this attacks a Shadow Hero, again, matchup niche. I don't like. Like, if these were in the generic slot or some of the other classes, I think it would be fantastic to give them tools for these matchups, but just to play off of the lore rationale, light versus shadow. Again, when we're showcasing that Dusk Till Dawn is meant to encompass all these extra heroes, I think having these types of cards in the generic slot to play against Prism, to play against Visor, to play against Levia and Bolton would have been fantastic, rather than just in the light and shadow dichotomy. Dichotomy? Later Rest. Blessing of Salvation. If a card has been put into your Hero Soul this turn, you may play this as though it were instant, gain 3 life. Seems decent. Again, playing around the light gimmick. And a lot of regen, which could be a interesting shift in the meta, right? Away from fatigue or control Oldhim to now control. Well, it's not control, it's more stall. What's the correct term for a stall type of deck, right, in TCG? I know aggro, I know tempo, I know control and fatigue, but what would just gain life be called? Interesting. We've seen Levia have a lot. We've seen the Light and Shadow cards both have decent ways to regain life that a lot of other heroes don't have access to just yet. Cleansing Light. If a card has been put into your Hero Soul this turn, you may play this as though it were instant. Destroy target red aura, then yellow and blue. Very niche again, right? The majority of token auras, in fact all token auras, don't have... Yeah, they don't have color strips. So it's just to play around the new types of cards. Right, the Radiant Force Field. I need to look that up, because there's been a few that, you know, either destroy target, non-token aura, or these types of cards. So I'm curious how many there are actually in the game at the moment. Blistering Assault, yellow card in your pitch zone, gains go again. They all yellow? They are all yellow. So why not just spread it out? You know, do red, yellow, blue, or do vice versa. So do blue, yellow, red, something like that to actually, again, the versatility, rather than just this heavy lean on yellow cards, when yellow cards seem to really have a downside in terms of stacking your deck, in terms of efficiency from what I've seen. Defender of Daybreak. When this defends a shadow attack, non-equipment, light cards gain +1. Why is this a light action? Right, this would be perfect as a generic, and it would have some usefulness. Searing Ray. If you have a yellow card in your pinch zone, this gains +2. And Break of Dawn. The next time a Shadow Source would deal damage this turn, prevent 4. Another great possible generic that is not a generic. What do we have on it? Just 2 random knights. Yeah. Well, again, mixed bag of feelings towards Dusk Till Dawn. I loved the high end. I absolutely love the high end cards. Right? They seem great. Low end seems rushed. Seems like they could have spread them out. Again, giving all the other players uses in terms of matchups against Light and Shadow would have been fantastic. All these common cards that we're seeing for Light, right, they would have worked so well as generics, as slight techs against certain matchups, which then really plays into the strategic nature of utilizing the sideboard, which I think I would love to see grow, right, having X cards as your tech against X hero, like Break of the Dawn, if it was a generic, would see more play, right? I mean, it's still deck tech for a Light hero, but it could have it could have been much better than just this generic, right? Because there's other ways to sort of accomplish this in Light already. Alright, anything else to really discuss? The short prints, I guess, and then this overall, so Cold Foil regular, anything that sticks out. Again, it's weird that these cards don't have Rainbow Foils or Cold Foil variants, right? Because they're meant to be the token card. That's what it honestly seems like they weren't designed to have Rainbow Foil or Cold Foils because they were designed as tokens and then moved into regular cards. Right? I'm not going crazy. I think that's a view that a lot of us are starting to pick up on, is that Dusk Till Dawn was going to be a draftable set and is now a supplemental set because they either ran out of time or probably just they ran out of time. I mean, it being pushed back would have been fine. This waste of slots in this premise of not a draftable set. Anything else interesting? Short printings. The short printings are interesting because they're not all uniform, right? So we have 60% on a Warrior Shield, which is also interesting because it's the only Warrior Shield, right? So it being short printed when it supplies Kasai, Bolton, Dorinthia, and is the only applicable shield slot item for all of them, for the foreseeable future till we get another shield, kind of feels like it didn't need short printing. But generally their stance for all equipment is to short print it in relation to the other Majestics, and then same with the Legendary Specializations cards that you can only have one of, right? Because you're looking for 3 of the other Majestics versus one of all these cards. That's why they're 60%. And then Vizet being 50%, but not the normal Vizet, that is just odd to me. Right, when this is meant to be the new hero. So all the equipment is 60%, right? Anything else? And then 50% for the 2 prisms. Because again, the only thing I can chalk it up to is, again, they don't want to impede on the promo variants, right? They want it accessible, but they don't want it to be, just you find so many. Especially because they are Majestics. If they are Majestics, it would have been worth doing more than 50%, to be honest. Because you're still going to get a lot of these, and you don't need them. You don't need more than one. Many people don't need more than one, right? Tokens. Should have been tokens. They should have just been tokens in a supplemental set. You can have all these filler cards, you can have the enablers for decks and stuff like that, and tokens in a non-draftable set. Right? You still get tokens in set booster packs, don't you, for MTG? And then they have the ability to be replaced with the list slot. I think altogether, supplemental sets need to be tweaked. I think that we need less commons, we need less rares, and altogether the packs need to feel a bit better. I mean, you just do a 5-card pack. What would work, right? What ratio of rares to Majestics to... I mean, a guaranteed Majestic, that would kind of be overkill in terms of a supplemental set. But I do think something needs to change. Right? They need to lean heavy on it being a supplemental set, rather than just, again, filling it with lots of filler-type cards. That's not really a necessity, and sort of dampen the feel of the sets, at least to me. Again, all the Majestics, definitely worth chasing, in my opinion. Everything else is just going to be chucked in a box and stored away till find someone to give it to. Anyway, hope you enjoyed. Can't wait to do some openings. See ya.